My untold trauma that I've never told anybody or talked about was at 7 years old. I had a kid who was a babysitter. He was older than me by about 10 years. Try to have me give him oral sex. He pulled it out and wanted me to get on my knees and put it in my mouth. And I didn't do it. I freaked out. I was actually really good at reasoning of why I couldn't do it, because what if we got caught and what if something happened? They tried convincing me, but I was really good about not doing it. But it burned a memory into my brain. It's something I never really shared about at all. He babysat me for like a year. His mom worked for my dad. His dad was a pastor. Originally, he babysat me, and he was cool. He was fun. He liked to do fun things. I remember he was watching me at my house, and he ended up going through my brother's room, and he found my brother had a hidden stash of porno mags. My brother's 10 years older than me, so my brother's like 18 at the time, 17 at the time. He was a senior, but he had found those, and he kept trying to have me look at them with him. And I didn't really comprehend or understand. I didn't understand what these magazines were. I didn't understand really naked women or any of that. And this was the first time I was ever subjected to it as a kid. It threw me off. I eventually got to the point, I remember he would like tell me that, hey, I should try this with him. And I kept telling him no. And it happened a few times that he had actually watched me. And then finally, one time, he was watching me, but we would go to where my dad's office. There's a walk area from where the doctor's offices all were to the emergency room. He had me go out there, went around the corner, and he pulled his pants down. And he was telling me to get on my knees and put it in my mouth. And I remember telling him how, somebody's going to come, there's people that are coming down here. Telling him everything that I could so that I didn't have to do it, because I didn't want to do it. I knew that this wasn't right. I didn't want to do it. And I felt so pressured. I remember after that, he didn't really actually watch me after that much. And so I know I had said something to my mom in some way, shape, or form, but I never told my parents, because his dad's a pastor. His mom works for my dad. They're not going to believe me, was my thought. And this was something I've never told a therapist. I've never talked to anybody about. It's probably something I should bring up in therapy. I know it's a part of the reason I probably don't trust men very much. And I've never trusted guys. And I think this is kind of why. I really, looking back at it, I think a big reason I'm skeptical of men is, and other guys, and having guy friends even, is what do they want from me? They don't want to just be my friend. They want something from me. And I think that this is a struggle that I actually have from that experience. Because as a kid, you don't comprehend this. I never talked to anyone about this. I've always held on to it. Because to me, it wasn't a big deal. This is how you downplay, I think, trauma is. To me, it wasn't a big deal because I didn't actually do anything. I was in that environment, but I didn't do anything. And so was it really that traumatic? Am I just being dramatic about it? And I think that's because there's a lot of shame to it. There's a lot of guilt to it. And it's like that unprotected child of yourself that you weren't able to protect is where it kind of pops up later on in life. Because at the time, I was a child. I didn't really understand what was going on. But later on in life, it's like I couldn't be there and I couldn't stand up for myself. And I feel like I let myself down by not standing up for myself. And I think that just built a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. And it was just one of those many things that kind of compound onto yourself when it comes to why we do some of the things that we do. I mean, I became, later on in life, really hypersexual. And I think a lot of the reasons I became hypersexual is in my own way to keep my own sexuality and not lose it. To remind myself that, I'm normal and I'm okay, if that makes sense. And it's not like I've ever been like homophobic or anything from all of this, but it did leave me, I think, confused in some ways. I started watching porn at a very young age then all of a sudden. I learned how to take care of myself at a very young age all of a sudden. And I think a lot of it was resulted from that. And it's so hard because as a kid, I was just so afraid of getting in trouble. I was afraid of my parents not believing me and me getting in trouble. Like I was afraid, like I didn't want to stand up to him. I was afraid to. He was older than me. And so it was like something I just held on to and never ever told anyone. And so yeah, I think it affected me. I know it did. I know that it's probably something I should bring up to in therapy and probably work through some of that, because I think it might do me some good. Because I don't know all the ways in my life that still shows up. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about a lot of our untold trauma, is a lot of the ways that it doesn't show up in our life that we realize, but it does. Like it's amazing how subconsciously things will self-sabotage us, or we will do things to self-sabotage us that is from trauma that we've never addressed. And it's hard to be honest with therapists even, because there is guilt and there is shame there. And it's like, how do you overcome that? And I found that you overcome it by sharing. That's how you actually, ironic as it sounds, we don't want to share, but sharing is like such a weight off of your chest. It's such a weight off of your soul that you're able to share something that was so dark in a sense, that you know it's affected your life, but even then you don't want to admit to it. And that's what kind of has inspired me to start this new series called The Hidden Trauma. Because I don't think this is necessarily what led me to addiction. Might have been one of the keys, one of the parts of the puzzle. But I also know it's affected me throughout life. I know it's affected me in relationships. I know it's affected me in friendships. And I know the power of sharing and being vulnerable, and then how strong you feel after you are. And I just kind of feel it's time to help others share that story. So if you ever wanted to know something about me that I've never told anybody, now you do. And it's amazing how many of us have stories like this. It's amazing how many of us have things inside us like this that we don't share, that we don't talk about, because of the shame and guilt. Because of the shame and guilt it holds with us. Sharing starts that process. Sharing starts that healing. And it is something I believe that we can all heal from. I've been very vulnerable and real and raw all my life here, more recently than when I was an addict. And it's amazing how when you start to let all of it go, that you really start to feel free, and you really start to feel more at peace, and you really start to find more enjoyment in life. And I think that that's what it's all about, is finding and going at your pace and setting yourself free, because ultimately you're the only one that can. You're the only one that can. And to be heard and to not be silent is really powerful.